That is awesome! That was patently ridiculous, but let me show you what I did. All I did was took this thing, and this is a bicycle dynamo. Bicycle dynamo is actually a sort of 3 to 5 watts, and they're at 6 volts if you're cycling at somewhere like 12 miles per hour, because they're designed that way. That's because it's 2.4 watts for a front light and 0.6 for a back light, and that's how they design all these things. The great thing about a bicycle dynamo, and this one's called a bottle dynamo, is they're just everywhere. I mean, they're everywhere and they're dirt cheap, and you can get a reasonable amount of wattage out of them. That 3 to 5 watts is enough to charge a mobile phone, run your Kindle, all kinds of stuff. Now that does have its issues. I mean, it's meant to rest on the end of a tyre. So when the tyre is spinning, it spins that much more quickly than the tyre, because the tyre and this little wheel act like a kind of gear. So in order to get any real output out of this, we need to gear that up. Luckily, we have this. This is our magnetic gear that we produced in video 1922, and there's a small bit of plastic that goes on the 8mm axle, and it's made the right size to fit on the bottle dynamo. Now I've done this in Tinkercad, and I will be putting those Tinkercad files out there. There's just a couple of other things I want to do first, but if we attach there and we spin this, then we'll get a really super gear ratio. To show you that, I'm going to connect up an LED light. And there it is, lighting up that LED just super. Well, here is our basic setup. We've got our bottle dynamo, we've got a connection, we've got our magnetic gear, and then on there we had 50cm blades on a plastic disc, and the plastic disc fitted on there. So when the wind blew that, about 60 RPM or something, but once it's gone through our gearbox, then we're getting something like 60, 600-ish, something like that. Anyway, these are just made out of a bit of pipe. 100mm diameter or 4-inch. This particular one is drainage pipe, you can tell by the colour. If you get the black one, that's soil pipe. It's a bit difficult to see your markings on the black, which is why we're using this one. But either will do. It's about 5mm thick, it's good stiff plastic, and we can make this into 4 blades. Now the blade length is going to be 50cm long, so what we need to do is cut off a 60cm section and then divide that into 4 by marking it in quadrants and sawing those quadrants up. And once we put his blades on there, we can get our gearbox and stuff it in there. There we go. And then we get our adapter, put it on the end there, and our bottle gear now will go in there, and that's our setup. So I can wobble down the street like a fat boy, getting about 60 RPM off of this, turning it into about 600-700 RPM, and we can get that to lighter light. Now we got plenty of torque on these long blades, and of course we're trading torque for speed, but we need that that because this gearbox is doing the same job that the bicycle wheel did when this was a bottle dynamo on a bicycle. We get the same effect, and that's what we need to be able to reproduce. Okay, we stick it on a bike as basically a bit of fun, but it does produce a reasonable wattage, and I could see this in a portable application, like when you're camping, for example. Now, you could see the gearbox as a bit of an inconvenience, but I mean, it's a magnetic gearbox, so it's basically going to last forever, and it really is super easy to make. But even so, you might think it's a little inconvenient. We need it to get the speed required for turning that fast enough to emulate the wheel, but it isn't the only way we could do that. We could just put it on something where we get a greater airflow through it, and so we would get a greater speed. So I'm going to use this, which is the water's turbine. And I've got a little adapter in there, so it'll go straight onto the water's turbine. Now, of course, what we need is for that to turn really quite quickly. So I'm going to go in a car, stick it out of the window, and we'll see what happens.
That's crazy!
Okay, so you're going to remember that adds to the wind resistance of the car, of course, but perfectly possible to hang it out of a car if you want, perfectly possible to do it on a bike, perfectly possible just to stick it on a pole when you're camping. Now this does give out an unregulated voltage, so it's brilliant for lights because you can just connect them straight to the light. But if you're going to do something like a phone, for example, then you need to regulate the voltage, but you can do that with this. This is a voltage regulator, and it costs £1.50. It's stunningly easy to use because if you look on the back of it, there's a big white arrow telling you which way, and it says here on the back, in plus, in minus, big arrow, out plus, out minus, and you can buy those just like that at the voltages you want it regulated for. And to connect it, I'm going to use crocodile clips, but you can just solder them if you want. Crocodile clip the in plus, in minus, like it says on the back, and then here, this one, which is the bit that bolts to your bike, is the negative. So you clip the minus onto the negative, and then this one, the brass one in the centre, that's the positive, and you clip that to there. Now when we connect to the out plus, out minus, which you can find on the other side of the big arrow, that's a regulated voltage at 5 volts, because that's a 5 volt regulator. So £1.50 and you'll have yourself a phone charger. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and please do remember to like and subscribe.